yara ñilla domoro ka diaten
boy janno CSO restaurant
e sa nakko be ni na dimbal nimba domoro kala janno
domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kendema bije luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni adi manda wala de te ka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa e ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery iko fanan be kalele badde lomba conference lomba workshop lomba ye fo pendin lo dunia kono domoro betama ñillom international o tewoda number 1
amanke ba domola jandam
e sa domo jang is atariya
wo mu kubandi
sa nakko sa futandi
e oto sa nakko be mu CSO restaurant
dafa na janna mu yat ni manje dorom bijam
aban
CSO restaurant known for best quality food and customer satisfaction.
diwli lanni maaro lanni
fop lanni
awa joni mi anda honno gerdeten e ngal ɗo sabu e ngal ɗo Ibrahima jonnal taw joni mi anda se yahay kapitiki ñawloɗen ha humpodiren e makko est ce que on noon e warude
waɗen noon awa
ane ko de Ibrahima ma ko to woni
mo Amérique
ko Amérique a woni kede humpitaki fiɓe musidɓe men baluwo
baluwo
ɓe andanɗa kala ko wawɗa wonde e aduna o si a rewi e juuɗe maɓɓe a jonnay ɗo dépassement o Gambia hara no weeɓi a yahata kadi taw ko mbuɗi ɗi no ƴawi walla no jippi ɓe haalantama ko kala ko falɗa ko sengo ñamete ili nebba maaro basal pomme de terre kala ko rewi ɗon a hendoto hara no weeɓi kadi wona ɗum ɗon tu ɓe aɓe jonnira e mobile phone siko ɗum kadi laptop kala ko wayrode juɓe hay kaspawa ɓe wawma jonnude kadi sa fala humpitade ko weeɓi ƴettu google account ma joni data ton waɗa download app maɓɓe on ayiyay kala ko humpima e maɓɓe ton ɓe weeɓi hama
ka wonɗa wo e aduna on
kala ko wawɗa
a jonnanayi wonɗo ka leydi men Gambia ɗo dépense
hara no weeɓi hama si ɗum non fof no neeɓi immoɗen joni mi ɗowtama ka place maɓɓe jano
waɗen joni
iya heɓa ko falaɗa
waɗen kisam.
When we touch down, better broke down.
With Gamtel G Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
So she became mine and see the
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibaram.
agada
ke mbijan no aga nyaade
albaka
mbaka important
yo nga transfer la sto
ya transfer la
ha code nyenji
okay nsila id soto
ah sa so sorry agada
mbijan bro
albaka
mbaka
bara alla service o tariya
mbare
ki janna nun kunu bara tariya
jannom yona forest de bureau gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bele birim koyna fo kato
bari si kodo kino kato nim fo bolon labe to
56 branches mola sota gambia jam
ha
gambia kono ani gambia bantala bankol nko kodo kiya bele to kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw jannam.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues in civil society, members of the press. Statement by the Gambian civil society on the dialogue over the ongoing consensus building process of the rejected final draft constitution, dated 24th of December 2020. The Gambian civil society organizations welcome the government of the Gambia's decision to revive the final draft constitution through a national consensus building process, 3 months after it failed to pass in the National Assembly. The draft constitution came on the heels of sustained desire of the Gambians for a new constitution. Therefore, when the autocratic regime of the former president was ousted on the 2nd of December 2016, Gambians yearned for a new political chapter, which is founded on democracy, rule of law, good governance, and Republican values. Generally, Gambians have recognized that the Constitution of the Gambia 1997 is in many ways deficient in providing a democratic and progressive dispensation, mainly because of the numerous undemocratic and self-serving amendments it was subjected to under the former regime. Following the democratic transition of power from the former government to a coalition government, Gambians legitimately desired and anticipated a new constitution that would, among other things, overhaul the 1997 constitution and an array of bad laws used as tools to perpetuate autocracy and dictatorship. Both the coalition 2016, led by President Adama Barrow, that defeated ex-President Jammeh, and a national consensus had agreed to implement a constitutional reform process that should lead to a third republic. It was for this reason that most, if not all, Gambians welcomed the creation of a Constitutional Review Commission in 2018 as a mechanism to enable the country draft a new constitution within the wider framework of transitional justice, a process we as civil society considered as widely participatory and inclusive. And indeed, credit goes to the Constitutional Review Commission for their professionalism in having a draft. Civil society organizations, like many Gambians, were disappointed not only by the failure of the National Assembly to pass the final draft constitution to its third reading, but also by the lack of a passionate drive by the executive to defend the bill it had sponsored. The draft bill was rejected without a substantive debate on the substantive provisions. The rejection of the draft by a sizable number of National Assembly members in only its very first reading is an indication of the absence of a political consensus amongst members of the Assembly. This, despite the fact that the draft constitution presented to the National Assembly was a culmination of a wider stakeholder consultation of Gambians at home and in the diaspora. As civil society, it is rather unfortunate that no meaningful concerted efforts were made by the stakeholders to chart a way forward in the aftermath of the draft's rejection. We welcome and support the new efforts by the government to revive the final draft constitution through support of the international idea and former President Goodluck Jonathan of Nigeria as facilitators and mediators. We are hopeful that this would unlock the key sticking points on the top of the contentious issues, thus brokering a common, non-partisan ground in the national interest. However, we remain concerned about the process and its outcome. Our concern was born out of the engagements we had with International IDEA on Monday, December 14th, and with His Excellency Goodluck Jonathan on Friday, December 18th. On both occasions, we expressed our apprehensions, concerns, and position on the process and outcome of the consensus building effort. We hold that the government, International IDEA, and mediator Goodluck Jonathan cannot tag civil society as stakeholders and yet fail to avail it with issues and options document, which was purposely prepared to guide the dialogue. As critical stakeholders in the process, we are yet to be availed the opportunity to meaningfully partake in the political dialogue initiated by the government of the Gambia. The inclusion and participation of civil society as a non-partisan entity is urgent, legitimate, and critical to the building of meaningful political consensus. It protects the legitimacy and integrity of the process and upholds the best interests of the citizenry. The Gambia civil society strongly urges President Adama Barrow, International IDEA, and the Chief Mediator Goodluck Jonathan to ensure transparency, participation, inclusion, and national consensus. For that matter, we hereby wish to state our position on the process and outcome for a new constitution. The current process should be guided by the highest ideals of sincerity, honesty, transparency, and commitment to the national interest by all stakeholders. Any new draft constitution must A, uphold and guarantee the fundamental rights and freedoms of all Gambians, including justiciable socio-economic rights. B, uphold the Gambia as a sovereign republic based on modern democratic values and the rule of law, in which all citizens are equal in rights and dignity. Guarantee a state with clear separation of powers between the three different organs of state, with a clear delineation of their respective powers and authority. D, unequivocally set presidential term limits to ensure no president serves beyond the two-term mandate to prevent self-perpetuating rule. E, create adequate checks and balances to restrain power, ensure transparency and accountability and efficiency of public institutions, and prevent abuse of office. F, empower the National Assembly as the people's representation F, empower the National Assembly as the people's representation, has all the necessary oversight powers to check the executive and all structures of state to ensure that they adhere to the rule of law, perform their functions efficiently and effectively, and prevent corruption. G, to create and guarantee the secularity of the state, in which the state will have the due obligation to protect the rights of all citizens to freedom of belief and worship. And H, to ensure a credible electoral process, pluralism, political participation that allow the people to fully exercise their franchise on constitutional and electoral decisions. We, the civil society here present and those out there, demand transparency, inclusion, accountability of this process, which will be the basis for our participation. We wish to assure all Gambians that we will stand by and safeguard the best interests of our dear motherland in this process. To that end, we will not hesitate to take all and every necessary, legitimate, and lawful democratic action to guarantee and protect the sanctity of a constitution that upholds the destiny of our motherland, and one which becomes the solid foundation of our budding democracy. With this, I thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance, and pray that God blesses our dear nation, the Gambia, and usher us into a prosperous and joyous 2021. Signed, John Charles Njai, Chairman of Tango, representing members of civil society here adequately present. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, members of the press, I or my colleagues here present will be gladly available to answer. If you don't have any questions, it's either you agree totally with what we have said, or you have. All right. Can we have? Can we know where you what press house? Yeah, ask the other one, then I will put it to.
We understand that Goodluck Jonathan was here in the country to discuss, to have a dialogue with some political parties and other individuals concerning about the rejected draft constitution. So we want to know what are some of the things that we are discussing.
Okay. All right. First and foremost, it did not take us this long because in September we came up with a press release and a press conference. It was held at the YMCA conference hall, if members of the press can remember. That document is available. I can make it available to Chronicle. So we did not wait. And all this time we have been also engaging government. From September to now, we've engaged both government and leaders of political parties to see how best we as Gambians could get this document revived, because we believe passionately that Gambia cannot get into a presidential elections with a 1997 constitution. That is unfair to all of us as Gambians. Secondly, in our engagements with President Jonathan, we were made to understand that President Jonathan has not come to tell us what to do, but just to be a facilitator of a dialogue, to have all political stakeholders on the drawing table to see how best to agree, disagree to agree on salient points of the draft constitution. The draft constitution, as far as we know, remains the main framework upon which dialogue is being taken on board. And I believe that it is important that all of us Gambians give this process a chance. If it fails, then we know who to hold accountable and responsible. But let's support the process as much as we can. And we as civil society, the reason we are doing this is to hold, to state our position, but also to let all stakeholders know that we are monitoring the process, and we will be speaking as the process unfolds. I hope I have answered your question. If any member here has anything that they want to. Anybody else? Yes. Can you please stand so that we can all see you? Which media house? Okay.
So you talked about some of the things that you would want to see in the Constitution, but I just want to understand how you CSOs want the revival of the Constitution. How do you want this to happen? That is what I want to understand. What steps do you think can be taken to make it? Because everybody talks about the fact that we want the Constitution back, we want the Constitution back. But what are the steps, what procedures do you think that we can take as a country to be able to bring this back? Because it's not just by theory, but there are practical steps that can be followed. Probably what steps can be followed to take it back to the National Assembly? What can be done? Because it's just not talking about it. What are the practical steps that can be taken anyway?
All right, thank you very much. Very good question. First and foremost, you would remember that in September, after when the CRC had handed over the final draft, it was time for it to get into a political process. And that's why it was taken to the National Assembly. At the National Assembly, they did the first reading. Normally, they would do a second reading and get into committee stage where they would deliberate, discuss, and maybe negotiate on key issues of the draft before they pass it. But that failed. So right now, where the position is still a political process needs to play out. And the intervention of international ideas by invitation from the Ministry of Justice is just to facilitate this dialogue between the political actors. What we want to do as civil society is to remind the political actors that as much as they have political interest in this, the national interest, the interest of the people, to safeguard our democratic values. That's what those lines or the things that we've listed are just the principles upon which we believe the Constitution must be built. And they are in the draft, and we want those principles to be upheld. So right now, from here, what we expect is the political dialogue will take place with the participation of civil society, and then they would come up with a final clean draft that could be represented to the National Assembly, possibly after being gazetted somewhere in January, and possibly in March, end of March, we could be getting it to the National Assembly. And there, we would hope that the political actors that have participated in the process will not have too many questions to ask, because they have all basically agreed on certain things. So from there, if the National Assembly passes it, then it will get to a referendum somewhere in June, according to the IEC calendar.
Okay, you talked about the fact that they should draft another clean.
What I mean, there is a draft, a framework.
Yes.
Now, but there are contentious issues there. And the political actors, the problem is with our politicians. Because the political parties that were in parliament, they are the ones that rejected it. Well, some of them. Okay, so we need to bring all of them on board to now see whether they could negotiate and see whether they could come up with another draft. But the draft that the CRC has presented is the framework. We are not going to redo a new thing. Okay? They will clean it up, as it were. It's to maybe change language, remove things, add things there, and reach a consensus as to what they want to see. But we are saying that safeguard the national interest. Whatever you do as politicians, no problem, but safeguard the things that will not erode democracy and the rule of law. That is our stance. You are still unclear. Yeah. Maybe let me invite the lawyer to make things clearer to you, Mr. Tao.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I think perhaps the word cleaning may not be the right word to use, because I think when you use the word clean, it presupposes that something is not clean. So for the record, let's get that straight. I mean, as you know, the draft went through what is considered a very inclusive participatory process, and it's a consensus. Of course, not everybody is happy, and there's no constitution in the world that makes everyone happy. But by and large, I think it's a broad reflection of our consensus. And this draft was presented in Parliament and failed because of political process. It was not a technical process that failed. The technical process happened with the CRC. It was presented by the minister, and through a political process, as required by a constitution, some members of the National Assembly rejected the draft for reasons that they canvassed on the floor. That is now water under the bridge. We all agree that, I would like to believe that the 1997 Constitution is not fit for purpose in terms of consolidating our democracy and taking us to where we want to go. So for this purpose, we, of course, civil society, despite, of course, some of the issues raised about the draft, still believe that there's a need to build, I would say, national consensus. And national consensus involves political consensus. That's why we as civil society say that. In as much as the political parties, I would like to say, this process, the focus seems to be with political parties. So the political parties are the ones who have been in closed-door meetings with international idea through a plenary and bilaterals. We as civil society were invited, sort of quote-unquote consulted or sounded at two meetings. One was with international idea. The second one was at a dinner, and I think about 7 of us or 8 were invited, and we were given a chance to state our position. And for us, I believe I was the one that spoke for civil society. For us, we wanted to remind the political parties that in as much as you are the ones that are behind closed doors negotiating this draft, we want you to be mindful of the interests of the citizenry, of the principles that was in the CRC Act that led to the draft. So our job, our role is to safeguard those interests. It is not up to us, civil society, to determine what should be or should not be in the draft. I think this draft has already been around the country and also to the diaspora, and we believe we gave CRC a job, and they had the mandate to look at our different views and come up with a draft based on the terms of reference. I think they have done that. Now, it is not for us. I don't think we have the mandate to determine what should be removed or not. That is for the people. So to make it very, very, very clear. So this process for us, we want to make sure that whatever the outcome is, it does not dilute this draft constitution. So is that very clear to you? Thank you very much.
That's why he's a lawyer and I'm not. That's why they are called the learned. Okay, any other question? You are all good? Well, just to thank you, members of the press, for coming, and also my colleagues in civil society. All here standing with me are members, leaders of civil society organizations across the country. I was told that there is somebody was going to come, or people were going to come from Basse. Possibly they will not be able to join us, but that is also good that we have that support. But we are, this is civil society, the leadership of Gambian civil society. And thank you very much, colleagues. We'll be calling on you again because we all need to make sure we ride this wave to a logical conclusion. So thank you very much, members of the press, and thank you. Yeah, all right. Thank you, thank you.
yara ñilla domoro ka diyaten
boy jannon CSO restaurant
e sa nakko be ninna dimbal nimbe domoro kala janno
domoro seneyata adiyata topotoro fanan kendema bije luntan during tamala abeka domoro ki janni adi manda wala de te ka we bijele anim fanan ka fadi jang ikono e fa e ka fa minne ko pastry anim bakery iko fanan be kalele badde lomba conference lomba workshop lomba ye fo fendin lon dunia kono domoro betama ñillom international o toda number 1
amanke ba domola jandama
e sa domo jang is atariya
wo mu kubandi
sa nakko sa futandin
e oto sa nakko be mu CSO restaurant
dafa na janna mu yat ni manje dorom bija
aban
CSO restaurant, known for best quality food and customer satisfaction.
diwli lanni maaro lanni
fop lanni
awa joni mi anda honno gerdeten e ngal ɗo sabu e ngal ɗo Ibrahima jonnal taw joni mi anda se yahay kapitiki ñawloyoɗen ha humpodire e makko est ce que on noon e warude
waɗen no awa
ane kore Ibrahima ma ko to woni
mo Amérique
ko Amérique a woni kede humpitaki fiɓe musidɓe men baluwo
baluwo
ɓe andanda kala ko wawɗa wonde e aduna o si a rewi e juuɗe maɓɓe a jonnay ɗo dépassement o Gambia hara no weeɓi a yahata kadi taw ko mbuɗi ɗi no ƴawi walla no jippi ɓe haalantama ko kala ko falɗa ko re sengo ñamete ili nebba maaro basalle pomme de terre kala ko rewi ɗon a hendoto hara no weeɓi kadi wona ɗum ɗon tu ɓe jonnira e mobile phone siko ɗum kadi laptop kala ko wayrode juɓe hay kaspawa ɓe wawma jonnude kadi sa fala humpitade ko weeɓi ƴettu Google account ma joni data ton waɗa download app maɓɓe on ayiyay kala ko humpi ma e maɓɓe ton ɓe weeɓiyama
ka wonɗa wo e aduna on
kala ko wawɗa
a jonnanayi wonɗo ka leydi men Gambia ɗo dépense
hara no weeɓi ha ma si ɗum non fof no neeɓi immoɗen joni mi ɗowtama ka place maɓɓe jan
waɗen joni
iya heɓa ko falaɗa
waɗen kisam.
When we touch down, better broke down.
With Gamtel G Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
That's how she became mine and see that.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibaram.
Agada
mbijan aganyani
albaka
mbaka important
yo nga transfer la sto
ya transfer la
ha code nyenje
okay for sana nsila id soto
sa so sorry agada
mbijan bro
albaka
mbaka
bara alla service o tariaka mbale ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka
jannom yona forest de bureau Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere birin koyna fo kato
bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolon blabe
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam
ha
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol nko kodo kiya bere kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi topoto nin kodi maraw jannom number 1 ti nyonta andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale le dadi ma nin domorol ni fana beteata Gambia dawda yalo ma kum fa kendol sotale je
wo moyo diat
apelenta
baraka ni ma lafta nyelen kendol e bina
yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba
yalo ndel chosano lo
baraka